Good evening, Juco Editz family, and welcome to season 4, episode 18 of the Juco Editz podcast. Tonight, I'm going to be joined by San Francisco Giants minor league pitcher Shane Rademacher. Shane, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
I really appreciate you for coming on, man. Okay, so how we're going to start off tonight's episode, I want you to talk to me about your junior and senior year at J.H. Rose.
Yeah, so junior year, mostly just like a reliever. Um, I didn't really hit much. I was just like usually the first guy out of the pen. And so I had some opportunities in some big games, but not a whole lot of playing time. And then get to senior year, start off the year as just like our number two pitcher. And then, we get into the season and I'm getting DH for when I'm pitching, which was frustrating. And then, one game, my coach, he said, my DH was 0 for 3. So my coach says, Shane, go ahead, see what happens. End up hitting a single up the middle, two RBIs, we win the game. And then after the game, coach was like, hey, we're gonna find a spot for you in the lineup. I'm like, all right, go on, play left field when I wasn't pitching. And then ended up hitting 345, won all conference, and ended up having a good senior year. So yeah, that was fun.
Okay, so next, Shane, talk to me. What was your recruitment like out of high school?
Yeah, so I wasn't highly recruited at all. I was like a 6'3", 255 pound, little overweight, chubby, high school senior. So I'm not gonna light up like the scouts or whatever. They're not gonna, they're not trying to get me, but I was trying to go to this JUCO actually 5 minutes from my house, but they didn't end up wanting me. So we get late into the senior year. It's probably April. My coach comes up to me. He's like, "Hey, like Chowan University is interested in you. Um, are you interested?" I was like, "Yeah. I mean, I don't have any other offers." So I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." And so get in contact with them, start talking with them, and then a couple weeks later, go on a visit, get an offer, and I'm just trying to think. I was like, "Oh, do I want to do this?" Because Chowan's in the middle of nowhere. It's a super small school. It's not for everyone, but I was like, do I want to do this? And I was like, my mom said, do you want to play baseball or not? And I was like, yeah. So, all right, well, let's do it. So I ended up committing and ended up getting to Chowan freshman year.
Okay, so now talk to me. What was your first year at Chowan like?
It was fun, man. I got there as a freshman, you're obviously nervous. You're trying to meet people and meet new teammates and all that fun stuff and dealing with classes, being on your own. So it's a lot. But, first year was great. I mean, luckily at Chuan, it's just baseball and school. There's really not much else going on. So it's really keep me focused on that. And it was fun. I was told, I was really not going to get many innings. I was told by my coach, I was like, hey, he's like, hey, you're not going to, you might be a back end of the bullpen kind of guy for us. You might get 15 innings on the year. It's like, all right, man, I'll do whatever. And ended up in the fall earning a starting spot, and um, I was a number two starter going into the spring, so that was fun. I also hit a little bit, but didn't get but two at bats. So, but yeah, it was fun, man. And unfortunately, it was COVID year, so I got cut
Right.
short. But it was a bunch of fun, great guys. I had a great time.
Okay, so next, Shane, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go through your 4 seasons and I'm gonna read off your stats. Okay, so
Yeah.
2020, 5.46 ERA, 2-4, 7 appearances, 6 starts. 2021, 6.11 ERA, 3-5, 8 appearances, 8 starts. 2022, 5.56 ERA, 2-7, 13 appearances, 13 starts. 2023, 7.93 ERA, 1-9, 12 appearances, 12 starts. So next, talk to me. What was your sophomore year like?
Sophomore year, I went and played in the Coastal Plain League 2020. And so, I got some great experience there. And the Cape was closed that summer. So,
Okay,
there
yeah.
was a bunch of Cape guys there, and it's it's like I'm playing with all these upperclassmen, and it's a great learning experience, getting to learn from some of these guys that ended up getting drafted and signed, and it was just great to see them work, and I took some of the stuff from them and just brought it back to school with me, and just came in really focused, determined, and ended up being our number one starter going into the spring, and had a pretty good year. You know, not it wasn't anything special, but I mean it's one of my better years, I'd say there. So um, you know, met new guys, the team's great. And, we had a lot of fun. Didn't win a whole lot, but that was my whole career at Chowan. But it was a lot of fun.
Okay, so next, Shane, I want you to talk to me. What were some of your favorite games during your time at Chowan?
Favorite games. We had some fun ones. It's obviously the ones we we win, but we when you play like Mount Olive and UNC Pembroke and you end up taking one from them when you're really not expected to. So, those were some of the fun games we had where we get to upset these nationally ranked teams and it's like that's fun. It's getting to ruin their day. But another, we had some fun ones. I had a couple good outings versus like Southern Wesleyan. I think I had one where I went like 7 innings, had like 14 Ks or something like that. And that was a fun. I think it was my junior year, but yeah, my senior year, I think I had one that versus North Greenville, who ended up winning the national championship that year. I think I went complete game 7 innings because we played a 9-7-9 schedule. So I went 7 innings. I gave up three. We lost 3-1, but I mean to go versus that team was pretty fun. Do well.
Okay, so I want to ask you, what was it like playing Barton?
Yeah, it was, it's kind of our rivals, so to say. I
Yep.
mean, they're probably the closest team to us. Didn't get to play in my freshman year. I don't remember much of sophomore year, junior year, but I mean, senior year, that was my last start. So, I was always wanted to go out there and have a good game versus them. They were a solid team, not never the best, but I mean, they'd always compete hard and it was always a fun matchup. And then I played on the tops for 4 years, and we had some of those guys come in, and I played with some of them. So I was getting to play against those former teammates and stuff, and that was a whole lot of fun. It's always fun competing against guys you played with or played against.
Talk to me, what was your emotion like playing in your final college game?
Yeah, so a lot of emotions. Obviously, I had spent 4 years at Chowan, and I poured my heart and everything I had into the team, and it was sad, coming off that field the last time. Not I knew I was gonna play at least another year, my fifth year somewhere, but it was tough. I definitely cried. Have to at least. I mean, but it was fun. We had a good game. You know, got away from us late, but I mean, it was a really 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 cool day. Just coming off and hugging some of your teammates and you know, just yeah, just it was just a lot of emotions.
Okay, so next, talk to me. What was the process like going to the San Francisco Giants?
Yeah. So senior year, I had a couple scout days in the fall. Get to the spring, my first outing at I started at Limestone, went 5 innings, scoreless, 9 Ks, no walks, I think, only like two hits. And after the game, the Giant scout that signed me, he came up and talked to me. He was like, "Hey, like, give me your number, email stuff. We'll be in contact." And so, kind of stayed in contact with him throughout the season. And then after the season, I went and played in the Coastal Plain League again because I had a fifth year. So I want to keep playing. Try and get a free agent deal. And I literally just committed to Liberty.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, so I literally just committed to Liberty like I think 3 days before he called me, and then so he called me. He's like, "Hey, you're not going to be able to start for Wilson, the summer ball team. You're not going to be able to start for Wilson this week." And I was like, "Oh, why?" He's like, "Oh, well, you're gonna be a San Francisco Giant." I was like, "That's sick." And so yeah, and then 2 days later, I'm on a plane to Arizona and get there, and do all of the paperwork and the physicals and all that fun stuff, and ended up signing, getting to get into two games in the ACL before the season ended, and then yeah, and then yeah, that's kind of how I got into pro ball.
Okay, next, before we go through like all the routes of the minors, right? The first
Mhm.
one, talk to me about spring training.
Spring training, wow, hectic. If I had to describe it in one word, it's every guy in the org is in one building. So, it can be a lot going on. If you're not on top of your stuff, you're not going to get your list in, you're not going to get what you need done. But it's fun. You get up, you get there 7:30, 8, have some breakfast, and then you're on the field. You're doing your throwing program, you're doing your conditioning, you're doing your PFPs, and some days you got to shag, some days you got to do team defense, and then a couple, usually like a week or two in, you're scrimmaging, you're playing other teams, and it's a lot of fun, but it definitely gets repetitive after 30
Yeah.
straight days, no off days, and you're just doing the same thing over and over and over.
Okay, so now we're going to go back a little bit. Talk to me about playing in the ACL.
ACL. So I didn't get, like I said, I only got 4 innings in it, so
Right.
it's don't have a vast experience in there, but it was cool. You're getting to play in these spring training stadiums, and that's a lot of fun. Um, I think I started one game, got the relief in the other. So I mean, the competition's, it's a little bit different than college. You're facing a lot of Latin guys.
Yeah.
So they're just free swinging, man. There's no thought up there. They're just seeing the ball and they're hitting the ball. And so you can have a lot of success if you're mixing well and throwing different speeds and stuff like that. So that's kind of what I did, and had a little bit of success.
Okay, next, being promoted to single A.
Yeah, so came back from, well, I guess 2023, I played in the ACL, and then had instructs, come back spring training, get signed to Low A San Jose, and start the year there. I started off as just a relief guy, kind of a long relief guy, to start the year. And then, we had one of our starters get hurt. So I moved into the starting role for about a month or two, maybe three. I don't know, time's a blur, but yeah, I moved into that role. And then end of the year, we traded Alex Cobb for this young lefty named Jacob Bresnahan. He's an
Yep.
awesome dude, stud. And so he ended up taking my starting spot, which is perfectly fine with me. So I went and piggybacked him. So that was kind of my whole low A right there. But we made playoffs, and unfortunately got bounced after the first round. But um, it was a good experience. It's similar to college. You're facing some college guys, and then obviously a mix of the Latin guys in there, and it's competitive. It's similar to the ACL, where you're kind of just free swinging. There's not a whole lot of like big approaches there, but it's if you're not on that day, you're gonna get hit.
Okay, now high A.
High Ace, after spring training, got assigned to High A Eugene, and started off as a reliever. Had my first outing, I think the second game or third game or whatever it was, and went 4 innings, or went 3 or 4 innings. I gave up one run. I think it was four. And the next week we had a doubleheader. So we needed 6 starters instead of the five that we usually have, and so I got to start one of the doubleheader games, and ended up going like 5 scoreless. And then next week my coach was like, or my manager was like, "Hey, we're gonna start you from here." So I was like, "All right." And so then after that, I think I had 5 straight scoreless starts to start the year. So I was a flaming hot start in April. One player of the month in the Northwest League, and
Yep.
got off to a great start, and that really kind of just propelled my season, honestly. And that league it's not easy because there's only 6 teams in it, so you're facing the same 5 teams, they come around like every other couple weeks, and so it's not easy. They're seeing you a lot of times. So to be able to have the success I did, I was very fortunate, and just I guess it just goes to show that I game planned and had a good year.
Okay, next, talk to me about playing with my guy Coxie.
Dude, Coxie. Can't say enough about that guy, man. He's a great guy, and not only is he a great guy, he's a freak athlete. I mean, there can't be too many guys in the minors that have more speed than him. I mean, he made some of the most insane catches I've ever seen playing behind me. I remember one in Spokane.
Yup.
It's a liner in the gap, and he's just full out Superman and diving and catching it and saving me some runs. Dude, he's fun to watch, man. He gets on base. First, second pitch, he's gone, and he's going to be there every time. So he's fun to watch, fun to play with. Great teammate. Can't say enough good things about him.
And then that one play where he dove over the fence to catch that ball.
Yeah,
Remember
yeah,
that?
yeah. In Hillsborough, I was in the dugout.
Yup.
It was like end of the game, and we just see Jonah going over the fence. I'm like, what in the world? Like, dude, just take it easy. He's like, no, he wanted to go home. He wanted to play some Call of Duty. But yeah, no, he's awesome.
All right. Now talk to me about being promoted to Double A.
Yeah, man, it was cool. I mean, I wasn't expecting it. We have a lot of pitchers that are very talented and stuff, and I knew I was having a good year, but I was just keeping my head down, being where my feet are, just working every day, just hoping I get the opportunity. And we were up in Vancouver, Canada, playing the Canadians, and
Oh, yup.
finished that Sunday day game. We're getting ready to head back, and I'm just sitting on the bus. Our bus driver comes and taps me. He's like, "Hey, like, we Mario, my pitching coach, needs to see you." So I go into the office there, and at the time, my manager Knack, he had a family situation, so he was away. So it was my pitching coach Mario, and then our like fundamentals coach Drew Martinez, and our hitting coach Jacob Walker. Um, yeah, and they were all just sitting there, and then my pitching coach Mario goes, and he's like, "Hey, we have something to talk about." I was like, "Oh, what's up?" He's like, "Hey, the strength coach, Bo, he says you're not really trying your hardest on your conditioning and your lifts and stuff." I'm like, well, we just lifted earlier, and we had a good one. And he was like, well, you're gonna have to fix that when you go to Double A. I was like, oh, sweet, let's go. Just
Yeah.
trying to be humble and just be excited. But yeah, it was sweet. And then we drove back from Vancouver. Get back at like 12 or 1 a.m. or something like that. And then, having to pack up my whole room pretty much and pack up the car and, try and figure out how I'm going to get that shipped and, figure out all the logistics and all that fun stuff. But, it was a really cool experience.
Okay, so this next one, Shane, how much does it mean to you that you're two stops away from going the show?
I mean, when you put it that way, it really is pretty neat. There's not a lot of guys that get to make it to Double A. So, I'm blessed. Just very thankful that I've made it to Double A. But it's like I said, it's you're two stops away. You want
Right.
more. I got to see for 3 days. I got promoted to Triple A to go back up earlier in the year. So I saw what it's like there, and it's it's even better than Double A, and I know the big leagues is even 10 times better than that. So it gives you that hunger and that drive to want to be up there.
Okay, next, what are the lessons that you learned from this past season, and what are your expectations going into 2026?
Yeah, so this season from my previous 2024 year, I think I just put too high of expectations on myself and just, I was like, oh, I've got to do good this outing so I can, do good the next outing to get promoted. Like just overplaying it in my head and just, So, I think that really hurt me 2024, just my mindset. I was just too focused on getting promoted, moving up, and kind of not it didn't really hurt, but it just makes you stress a little bit, and off the field doesn't help. You're thinking about it all the time, and it's just like, this year I came into the year and obviously I had a good start to the year, so that helps. But I mean, I just played freely. That was one thing I learned about this year was just if you play free and do what you can and don't worry about it after the game, you're gonna have a lot more success. So I think just playing more freely and just knowing that I can only do what I can do is basically what I learned this year.
Okay, talk to me about what is your welcome to D2 and welcome to the minors story.
Okay, welcome to D2. Huh. I mean, it's got to be facing one of the powerhouses like North Greenville or Pembroke or Mount Olive. Just getting just getting slapped around. I think my sophomore year, because I only played a couple games my freshman year, so then didn't get the whole season to really have that moment. But sophomore year, early in the year, we go to North Greenville, and they've got Merritt Kloop, who doubled off Rookie Sasaki in the World Baseball Classic.
Yeah.
They've got John Michael Fail, who I think is still the all-time home runs leader in Division II baseball. And so their lineup's stacked, and so I'm going in there thinking like, oh, I'm gonna have a good one versus them. I give up two pumps to Fail. I give up a couple doubles here, and it's like, all right, well, these guys are legit. And so that was kind of my welcome to D2 ball, but welcome to the minors. I had one outing versus Seattle's low A Modesto.
Oh, yeah.
We were at home. I had the start. I think I only went like 3 innings. I gave up 4 home runs that day.
Oh.
It, the wind was blowing straight out, and it didn't help. But they uh they touched me that day, so that was probably my welcome to the minors moment. But it's gonna happen, man. If you're out there enough, you're gonna give up. You're gonna have those days. You're gonna give up the home runs. You just gotta bounce back and not think about it too much.
5 a.m. D2 stories.
Ooh, freshman year, we had lift, I think at 5:30. We had to be there at like 5 though. Um, it's brutal, but I remember one day, my coach, he didn't send out that we had lift till like 11 p.m. that night. And like my roommate there was only like six freshmen, six of us in the dorm. And so I think my roommate was asleep. One of the other roommates was asleep. And it was just like only two guys saw it. And it was me and one of my other buddies because we were out getting like some ice cream one night. And so we were like, oh, if our roommates see it, we'll go. If they set their alarms, we'll go. If they didn't see it, we're not going. And so, don't get up that morning. We get to practice that day, and everyone's like, "Oh, you skipped lift," and I was like, "Yeah, yeah, we skipped lift, like no biggie." Coach doesn't know, he wasn't there. And then so we get to practice, and coach lines us up on the line. He's like, "All right, everyone line up." I'm like, "All right." We're just laughing. And then my coach, he goes, all right, step forward if you didn't show up to lift this morning. I'm like, oh shoot. And so it's all the freshmen, we all just step forward, and he's like, all right, take off. So we start running. We probably ran 15 to 20 laps at practice that day, and doing hundreds of push-ups, not that much, but it's a lot
Yeah.
of push-ups, a lot of sit, like anything you can think of. I mean, so yeah, that was probably my one of my 5 a.m. stories. We had a couple other ones in the weight room that almost got some guys hurt, but
Dang.
just yeah, but it's crazy.
Okay, D2 bus ride story.
D2 bus ride story. I don't have. like any crazy ones that I can really think of.
Okay.
But there was a story the year before I got there, that that was pretty crazy. This like our game one starter, I guess. Like I said, I wasn't there, so this is just secondhand from my teammates. But they said that this guy, he was reaching up to go close like the emergency hatch, and he like sliced his finger open and just like is bleeding, and goes to see the trainer, and the trainer's like leave me alone, like nothing's going on. And then he shows him his finger, he's like, he's like, oh shoot, that's a problem. And there's a lot more to the story, but there's just like a that's probably the craziest thing I've ever heard on a bus.
Man, that's wild. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
Okay, this next one that I have for you is what is something that you struggled with this season that you want to improve on?
What I struggled with. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot that I felt like was really like a struggle. Just some days it can get repetitive, and some days it's like, I don't really want to do this lift today. I don't want to, do this, do that. But it's like I feel that if I just did a little bit better, just maybe hitting that one lift, that one extra lift when I don't want to, just doing that one little thing that you don't really want to do. I think I do that, and I think that could help a little bit.
Okay. Next thing that I have for you is what is your biggest source of motivation during challenging times?
Biggest source of motivation. I think it's just my story. It's pretty unique. Not a whole lot of Division two guys get into pro ball, and especially not ones that went to Chowan. We don't have too many alumni that play professionally. So, it's just my motivation is just to try and, make my teammates, family, friends, make them proud that, they played with somebody that has played at the Division two, that played with them at the Division two level and is now in Double A baseball, trying to make it to the big leagues, just, obviously like I have self motivation, but it's trying to prove those guys right, just trying to show that, just because, you go to a small school, you can make it.
Yeah.
You have to work.
Okay. What is one thing to expect on the Division two level?
One thing to expect, a lot of uncertainty. I mean, you can go into a weekend and, you could be facing North Greenville, or you could be facing, like Southern Wesleyan was always one of the lower teams in the conference, so it's just each weekend's going to be different. It's never going to be the same as it's like Division One. Obviously, like when you're in the SEC, you're facing top arms every day. Well, in Division Two, I mean, you could be facing. We had a lefty my freshman and sophomore year that, lefty that probably threw like 65, 70, but he would get outs.
Yeah.
And then you could be facing a guy at North Greenville throwing 95 plus. So I mean, it's just like uncertainty. You never know what each team has, and it's not like we have all of the data that Division ones have, and so it's definitely a challenge. There's just a lot of uncertainty within Division two baseball, and it makes it fun. Any team can win on each weekend.
Okay, this next one for you is what is your favorite meal?
Favorite meal? I mean, I love a steak with a potato and a salad. I mean, you give me that, you can give me that every night. I'll be happy. Anything with a steak. I mean, like I said, steak is my favorite meal by far.
Okay, now let's go back. Tell me some more of your favorite D2 stories.
Oh, these two stories. Um, there I had this one story. If we were going to King University, and we get there, we're playing the game, and you know, um, after the game, after we won, our bus driver is just like blaring his horn, like getting so hyped for us, and like runs over a tree and is just blocking like everything. Like just that one story that always just is just hilarious to me. We actually had a another teammate of mine. I think it was my freshman year, I think. Um, we had this guy. He was a transfer. I can't remember where he went, but he was driving in town. Just he's at a stoplight. He's going through it, and this like 8-year-old like stole his mom's car and is out for a joyride and smokes him and totals his car. And we get a text in our group chat. He's a real quiet guy. He doesn't really text a whole lot. So he says, "Can anyone pick me up from blah 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 this location?" I'm just sitting there like, what's this dude talking about? Like, why has he got to get picked up? He definitely doesn't do anything. And find out later he got hit by a car and got concussed. And that was a crazy one. We had
Man.
a ton of those stories. My senior year, we had this one kid. He was coming back from our gym, and he gets smoked crossing the street by this car. I think it was a police car. I think he was going to like a thing, and obviously like he had his headphones on, he's crossing the street, and he gets smoked and had to get flown out of there, have surgery, and like it's crazy. But I mean, just some stories like that is just crazy.
That's unreal, man. Wow.
Yeah. I have a bunch more back, they don't really come to mind,
I got you. Yeah.
but yeah, it's Division Two is crazy.
Okay, this next one. What is one thing you do to try to get out of a slump?
And just kind of just take my mind off the game. I feel like if you're thinking about it too much, you're just putting too much pressure on yourself. At the end of the day, it's a game and it's a hard game. It's a game that will humble you you know, if you're having a good week, it can humble you. Um, so I think just taking your mind off the game and just focusing on, your life and like go do some fun stuff, hang out with friends, go play golf if that's your thing, do some hobbies, like play some video games, just trying to take your mind off of it.
All right. This next one that I have for you is what drives you to keep playing baseball?
Um, it's ever since I was a kid, I've always dreamed of being a professional baseball player. So, I think what motivates me is just that kid, me, just him wanting it so bad, and then me now I'm here. So it keeps me motivated. I want to get to the highest level and I want to compete there. And ultimately, obviously win a World Series, have success. So I think that's what really drives me. And obviously, like my family and friends and my fiance, all the people in my life, they really motivate me.
What's the biggest thing you noticed transitioning from D2 to the minors?
Everyone's good. Um, everyone there can play the game at the highest level. So, not saying that Division Two is a slouch in any way, but obviously you're going to have those teams that are just a little bit weaker. That have the guys that'll swing and miss at really anything. So I mean, it's once you get into in professional baseball, it's not easy. You're there for a reason, and it's tough. I mean, I think you know that's just the biggest thing is just everyone there is super talented.
What's one of your favorite things about the minors?
Oh, I think one of my favorite things is, just all the unique team names and alternate uniforms and
Yeah.
all the random cities you're in. I mean, like in the California League, we're going to Modesto, California. Like I would never go to Modesto, California if I didn't have to. Like, just getting to see all these different cities and, you know, um, it's pretty cool. We get to go see a lot of different places in the country and especially me. I mean, we get to go. I got to see California. I've gotten to see, the Northwest, Oregon, Seattle, Washington, Canada, and then double A. I got to go to Pennsylvania twice, and I got to go to New Jersey, and I've gotten to see a little bit of the different parts of the country that I haven't seen as much of. So it's pretty cool. I think that's a pretty cool part of minor league baseball.
What sacrifices have you had to make to pursue your dream?
Yeah, I mean, in high school, I like a bunch of my friends would always, skip lifts and go to volleyball or basketball games, and it's just missing that, missing a lot of social events, playing in tournaments or playing weekend games or lifts during the week. So I mean, it's a lot of sacrifices in your social life, just missing out on a lot of things. But um, I think it paid off in the end. I mean, the sacrifices, it's worth it.
What's it like playing in the minors?
It's fun. I mean, it's a grind for sure. It's not as glamorous as the big leagues. You're not flying everywhere. Well, until you get to AAA, but you're busting sometimes like 10 hours, and it's a grind, but it's a whole lot of fun. I mean, you're playing some of the best competition in the world at baseball, and what more can you ask?
What is your minor league bus ride adventures like?
So those are fun. We play some Mafia. I like to read a lot. I like to, watch some shows. Um, just try and pass the time as best you can. You know, we when we were going up to Canada that the week before I got called up, we had to stop in Seattle just because our bus driver was going to run out of hours, and so we didn't have a good place to stop. But we were coming up on Seattle, so he's like, "All right, we're going to stop in Seattle." So, we took like a 3 or 4 hour break in Seattle and just went and explored. And that was pretty cool. When I got to Double A, we bussed from Somerset, New Jersey to Erie, Pennsylvania, and just it's a whole lot. It's bus rides are fun, you know, but after a little while, they can be a little repetitive, but it's fun.
Where is your most favorite place that you've been so far?
Um, Shoot. Like Double A or like anything specific or just
Oh
in
yeah, yeah,
general?
for baseball wise, like in the minors.
Yeah,
Favorite
yeah.
city?
Favorite city? Favorite city. We got to go when we went to Vancouver. I think Vancouver was pretty sweet. Um, obviously it's a different country, and it's a major city, so that was pretty unique. We got to some of the days before we went to the field, some of us Ubered down to the downtown and walked around and got to see some stuff. That was pretty cool. Um, a lot of the other cities, in low A and high A are kind of just smaller cities, so it's not as glamorous, but Vancouver was pretty cool. I'd say that's probably been my favorite so far.
Was it really cold then?
So we went there twice. First one was the beginning of April, and that one was a little bit chilly at night, just because it's always kind of chilly up there. And then when we went back in late July, it wasn't too bad. But yeah, it's a cool place.
So Shane, how do you learn from criticism and constructive feedback?
Yeah, so I think you just gotta be understanding and realize that it's coming from a good place most of the time. It's usually coaches saying, you need to work on this, you need to work on that. So you just gotta take it, and just run with it, man. Just work on what they're saying. They know what they're doing. So you gotta listen, you just gotta be, just be available and just be coachable.
Okay, this next one, what made you get into baseball?
Yeah, so I just started by playing T-ball. I mean, parents just signed me up for it, and T-ball to Big Fry, and then my parents made me try out for Little League, and I ended up just continuing each year, and ended up falling in love with the game, and ended up becoming pretty good at it. So that's just how I kind of got into it.
What do you do for fun in the off season?
So I like to play golf.
Okay. Yep.
Usually, me and some of the guys will go play. At least once a week we'll try, and then sometimes get to play on the weekends with my fiance's dad, and sometimes I'll go play with a friend. But Yeah, it's golf. I love video games. I'll probably hop on the game after this for a little bit. I like to read. Um, I like to hang out with some friends every once in a while and just have fun.
What are your favorite video games you play?
Ooh, so recently, I've been playing. I play a little bit of the show. When I got nothing going on. Play some Battlefield. Call of Duty comes out tonight, so I'll probably play that
Yup.
a little bit. This new game called Arc Raiders.
Okay.
I've been playing that a little bit. Also like, some sports games like 2K and I kind of got a little bit of everything in there. So
Back in the day, did you play Fortnite?
I did. I did back when it was like OG. Now I can't play. There's just too many sweats and
Yeah,
just too challenging. Can't
I
keep up.
know. Yeah.
But yeah, I
Okay.
used to love it.
Yeah, me too. Especially back during COVID, there was nothing to do, and you would just
Oh, it
play.
was the best.
Yeah, you would just play Fortnite. Okay, so this next one, what do you do when you're in a slump?
Kind of just take my mind off the game. Um, Simple as that. You don't want to overthink it. Um, just you don't need to press and make too many adjustments. Just know that what you're doing is good and just trust yourself.
How do you stay mentally locked in during the season?
Yeah, so mentally you just gotta be mentally tough. I mean, it's a long season. You gotta understand that, you're gonna have bad days, you're gonna have bad games, you're gonna face some challenges, so you just gotta keep a steady mind and just know that, it'll all work out in the end.
Favorite JUCO places that, or sorry, favorite D2 places you played at, and favorite minor league places you played at?
D2, North Green was a fun one. Um, they have a cool stadium. Um, Mount Olive's fun. It's always fun playing them. Uh, Pembroke, kind of in the middle of nowhere. Not a whole lot, but trying to think. We went down to Emmanuel. They were pretty fun to go play. Um, no, minor league places. I always enjoyed playing in Modesto for some reason. The hotel setup, there's like a movie theater, so me and the boys would go to some movies night we could. Um, that was fun, playing down at the Dodgers in LA. It was pretty
Yep.
cool. They're low A. Um, I got to play. Oh, I didn't get to play, but I got to go to AAA for us, which is Sacramento, which is where the A's play now. But being there was pretty cool. Um, Altoona was cool. They got a pretty big stadium and they got that roller coaster in right field. Um, Trying to think. Richmond's a fun place to play. We're obviously getting a new stadium, but the Diamond, they've been playing in for forever, that they packed that place out, and so that was really fun to play in.
Toughest lineup you faced in D2 and the minors.
D2 had to be North Greenville. I mean, that lineup was loaded. They had multiple guys that get signed or drafted, Um, and they're still playing now. So I mean, that was probably the toughest Division two lineup I have faced. And then uh, best minor league lineup was it's probably the Erie Seawolves when they had Max Clark, Kevin
Oh,
McGonigal,
yeah.
Max Anderson, Jose Briceño. I mean that lineup is loaded. Um, and then probably a really close second is probably the high A Seattle. Everett Aqua Sox. I mean,
Yep.
they had Cole Emerson, Lazaro Montez, Ty P, and Michael Arroyo and Pagliarini. Some of their top prospects. I mean, that was a
Yeah.
really talented lineup. So those are probably the two that I can think of that are probably the most challenging for sure.
Okay, next, take me through your daily routine versus your game day routine during the season.
Okay. So like off season versus in season.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, off season right now, I usually wake up. 9 or 10, somewhere in there, depending on the day. And sometimes make some breakfast, maybe play some games for a bit, and then I'll go to the gym. I'll get my throwing in, and then we usually lift at 1, train at 1, and then after that, come back, might take a nap or read or, watch some shows, play some games, depends on the day. Or, if we have an early, might go golf. And then, have dinner and shower and just hang out, just play some games or, do whatever. And then in season, it's honestly kind of similar, except we have a game, obviously. But I'll wake up 9 or 10, make breakfast, chill, hang out till it's time to go to the field around 1:30, maybe get there at like 2. Go through all the prep stuff and get my throwing in. And if I got to lift that day, I'll lift, or if I got to do this or that, I'll do it. And then, game time and, go out there and play. And after the game, just have that post game meal and head home and shower and then shower there. But, get ready for the day and, or the night and go to sleep.
Okay, so Shane, before we get into our final questions, so I want to go back a little bit, back when we talked earlier in the show, before you said that before you signed with the Giants, right?
Mhm.
So when you were committed to Liberty, what all schools reached out to you before choosing Liberty?
Yeah, so I was talking, NCANT reached out. I was talking to Winthrop. I pretty much had an offer there. Um, I was talking to William and Mary a little bit. Um, I was trying to kind of stay around the Virginia, North Carolina area.
I gotcha.
Yes, those were kind of the two that William and Mary Winthrop I was kind of interested in. And then, funny story about Liberty, I was on the golf course, their pitching coach called me on hole 3, talked to him for like a hole and a half. And I was just walking, let my friends play and just walking and I hang up and then, they call me back on hole like 16, they offer me and I'm like, wow, that's sick, that was
Yeah.
that quick. And so then, that kind of came on quick and then, the next day I called him back and tell him I was committing. So but yeah, not too many schools. It was still pretty early, I guess, but yeah.
Okay, so now I'm gonna get into the final topics I want to talk about. So the first one, what is your thoughts on NIL?
NIL. I'm kind of like partial because I didn't get it.
Yeah.
So it's tough seeing these athletes in college, making more than me and minor leaguers in general. But I mean, I understand it's a business, so it's like I understand it. It sucks that I didn't get a chance to experience that, but I mean, it's at the same time, I'm glad that athletes are getting paid now, and that definitely helps like families and anything like that. So it's definitely helpful. I think it's a little bit crazy though. It's
Yeah,
like
I agree.
paying millions and millions for these guys, and it's crazy.
Okay, next one. What is your thoughts on NIL and D2?
Well, there was no NIL at my school, but yeah, I wouldn't think there'd be too many NIL in Division 2. Um, just because I mean, unless you're at like a big time school like Tampa maybe or well, yeah, shoot, I don't even know
Angelo
North Greenville, I
State.
guess. Yeah, like the big powerhouses. I mean, you're probably not. There's probably not a whole lot NIL going around in Division 2 baseball. So I mean, I would be surprised if there's a whole lot of money in NIL in Division 2.
Okay, so Shane, there is a couple D2 teams I want to ask you about, and you tell me if you've heard of them before, okay?
Okay.
The first one, Pitt State.
Pitt State, that's in Kansas, right?
Yep,
Okay, yeah, I've heard of them.
yep. The next one that I'm going to ask you about is Central Missouri.
Central Missouri. I've definitely heard of them. I can't think of. I can't think of like a logo or anything, but I mean,
Okay.
I've heard of them.
Okay. They're the Mules.
Okay, yeah,
Yup. And then Northwest Missouri.
Northwest Missouri. I think I've heard of the Northwest Missouri
They're the Bearcats.
Bearcats. Okay, okay,
Okay. Those were the ones I wanted to ask you if you knew about because they're in my region. So that's why I was wondering.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I don't think I've heard of them, but I was funny. Like this kind of a little off topic. I was actually supposed to play summer ball in Missouri my freshman year
Okay.
in the Mink League, I think it was.
Okay. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, I was supposed to play for I don't know how to say it, like Chillicothe or
Okay.
Chillicothe or something.
Yeah. I think I know what you're talking about, but yeah.
Yeah, this is kind of funny, Missouri, but yeah.
Okay. All right. So the next question that I have for you is, what is your thoughts on college athletes having agents?
I think it's smart. I mean, there's definitely a lot of guys out there that are trying to make money off of these athletes, and some of them might get scammed or not know what they're doing. So I mean, having an agent is never a bad thing. Um, I think it's kind of crazy that a college athlete has to have an agent. I don't even have an agent, but it's needed, I think, for some guys, especially like the higher end athletes.
Yeah. And also, I worded that wrong. I meant advisor because in baseball, it's advisor.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
it's smart though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Next, thoughts on the transfer portal.
I think it's good. I think you shouldn't be able to just up and leave anytime you want. I think there should be some kind of restrictions there. Just it's kind of crazy that you can be getting paid upwards of $1 million and you can just up and say, "Hey, I'm gone." There's no stopping you. It's I think there should become some kind of contract system, or you have to sign a contract, but it's definitely interesting. But I think it's good that guys in situations can leave without having to sit out a year.
Okay, this next one relates to you. So, what is your thoughts on the rule with where if you're a Division two athlete, you get a year of Division one eligibility?
Didn't even know about that rule.
Well, I mean,
So
like, oh wait, go ahead.
can you explain it to me?
Oh yeah. So, okay, so I'm not sure if this is with like Division 2 to D1, but okay, but this is what it is for I know for JUCO guys, okay?
Okay.
There was a rule that was passed where if you went JUCO, then you went Division 2, you'd be granted an extra year to go Division 1 a year, which that's been passed by multiple guys. So I know for a fact that's a possibility, but I want to know your thoughts on that. I worded that wrongly myself. I'm
No,
sorry.
no, you're good. I mean that's pretty interesting. I mean, I know um after COVID they were just giving guys that went JUCO, free years, and it's kind of crazy. I mean like it used to only get like 5 years to play like 4 seasons and then in college athletics. So now it's kind of crazy they're just giving out free years, but I mean, I'm all for it. I mean, if it can get guys degrees and give them opportunities to, potentially play at the next level, I mean, I'm here for it. I think it's good.
All right. Thoughts on how baseball is changing analytically?
Yeah, it's insane. You know, I've in college, there's not a whole lot of analytics in Division II baseball, especially at least my school. So, I didn't know a whole lot about TrackMan or much of that stuff, when I got signed to the Giants, and it's like, all these Division I guys, that they know their vert, they know their horizontal, they know that they're all these numbers, and it's like, dude, I just throw the baseball like I just throw a fastball, a slider, a curveball, a changeup. Like I don't
Yeah.
know what it all does or what it all means, but as you're kind of playing, you're seeing the data, and it's kind of cool. Sometimes I think it can be a bit much if you're overanalyzing it. Um, for me, I kind of just focus on, certain things. Not, and I'm not trying to change much when if I see something, but analytics is pretty crazy in baseball now.
Thoughts on the pitch clock?
I like it. I don't think you should be up there for a minute throwing one pitch. It's as a fan, I don't want to sit there for 5 hours and watch that. So I like it. At times, I think it can be challenging. Depending on the team. Some teams start it, pretty early, so you're moving a little bit. But once you get used to it, I like it. It makes the game move faster. Doesn't give the batter as much time to think. You can play around with it in different situations for sure.
Okay, so I have five last questions for you. The first one is, what is a position you used to play early on in your career?
Early on, when I was really young, I caught because no one else wanted to. But then
Okay.
once I got a little bit older, got into Little League. I played some center field. I played some left. I played some third. I played some first. Played some short. I feel like the only positions I really didn't play like that much was obviously catcher as I got older, and then second and right field. Didn't really play those a whole lot. But I think my favorite, other than obviously pitching, was probably like first base.
All right, this next one, what is your walkout song?
My walkout song. So this past year I had Renegade by Styx.
Okay,
So
yep.
yeah, so I had that. I'm a big Steelers fan, so I love Renegade. And so I made that my walkout in high A. And on the 4th of July I changed it to some Toby Keith, some American stuff. So that's
Okay.
pretty fun. Yeah.
All right, the next one. What coach means the most to you out of all the coaches you've ever had? And what season means the most to you out of all the seasons you've ever had?
Um, that's a tough one.
I know.
I mean, I love my high school coach, man. He's probably I think he's honestly the winningest high school coach in high school baseball,
Oh,
at least
wow.
in North Carolina for sure. But he's got over
Okay.
1,000 wins. I mean, he's been doing it for forever,
Dang. Okay.
and so that's been he means a lot to me. He's awesome. He gave me a chance to play. And a season that means the most. My sophomore year of high school was pretty fun. I played JV the whole year, and then late. I mean, I was playing. I had a good year, and then I got called up to play varsity for playoffs. Yeah, I didn't see the field, but I mean that team was absolutely loaded, and it was a fun team. And I think we made it to the fourth round of playoffs. So, we were like one win away from the semis, and so that was a whole lot of fun. Man, just being part of that team was a whole lot of fun.
All right, Shane. Now, my last question for you tonight is what advice do you have for any younger kids, high school, junior college, Division 1, Division 2, all the above? What advice do you have for them trying to make it to the next level like you have?
It's not easy. It takes a lot of hard work and dedication and sacrifice. Um, but I think if you put your mind to it, it doesn't matter where you're at. Anyone can make it from anywhere. I mean, I'm from Division 2. One of the guys I trained with, he was a club baseball guy at ECU and he signed with the Astros. So, you really can make it from anywhere. You just have to believe in yourself, work hard, and just be seen, man. And you can do it. I think guys should just know that you can do it.
All right, Shane. Well, I really appreciate you for coming on tonight, man. I wish you best of luck next season and go ball out, man. Best of luck with the Giants.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Most definitely, man. Have a great night.
Thanks, brother. You too.
Thank you.